Today we're going to be talking about summarizing. When we summarize a text, I like to think of it as like a movie. If you were going to tell somebody about a movie, you wouldn't want to give away every single detail of the movie or you'd ruin it. And that's the same thing when we talk about summarizing a text, whether the text is nonfiction or fiction. We want to give the main idea and the most important details, but we don't want to give away everything. Retelling versus summarizing. When we retell a story, we tell the whole story again, we use the author's words, and we add as many details as possible. But when we summarize, we tell only the most important events from the story, put events in your own words, and we keep in mind the big idea, what the story is mostly about. For both retell and summarize, for both of them, we use only details from the text, and we keep the details in the correct order. When we do a summary of a text, an article, a book, a story, we always want to include the main idea. We only want to include important ideas, and we want to use those key words we notice throughout, and most importantly, just our own words. Remember, we're not retelling a story, we are summarizing it. So it's so important for you to make sure you're using your own words. After that, we have to decide, once we're going to do a summary, we need to decide if the text is a nonfiction text or a fiction text. If it's nonfiction, we're going to include that main idea, and then we're going to include a sentence explaining each subsection. Remember, nonfiction means they're informational text. Think about your Indiana Studies Weekly. If we took an article from it, we could give the main idea of the article and then a sentence explaining each subsection, or those bolded headings within that article. If it's a fiction text, like a story, something that's not true, we want to include the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution. So if we look over here, these are the type of, right here, this would be an example of a fiction graphic organizer we may use. And over to the right, this would be an example of a non-fiction graphic organizer we may use for summarizing. When we summarize a fiction text, or fiction means it's not true, mostly the things we read for entertainment purposes, we ask ourselves, or remember these 5 words: somebody wanted, but, so, then. So when we answer the somebody, it is who's the main character? The wanted. And what did the main character want? But it is what was the problem? So how did the main character, he, she, try to solve it? And then how did it end? So we're going to be asking ourselves, somebody wanted, but, so, then. The somebody part comes in the beginning or the intro of a story. The wanted is your rising action. The but is usually the climax or in the middle of the story. So is that falling action. And then is our resolution. Remember, when you do a summary, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, we have to keep it in order. So if you think about this, the somebody, your character is always introduced in the introduction or at a beginning of a text. The wanted, what did they want? That's our rising action of the story, how things start happening. It's the start of our problem. But is the problem. It's the climax. It's the middle. It's the most exciting part. It's like when the problem gets to the highest point in the story. The so, how do they try to solve this problem, is usually our falling action. And then how did it end is at the very end of our story, or the resolution. Let's practice a fiction summary. The title is The Tale of the Yellow Clover. Once there was a yellow clover. She was the only yellow clover in a field of green clovers. She wanted so badly to fly away to find a field of yellow clovers so she wouldn't feel alone, but she seemed to be stuck in her place, and there was no way to get loose. So one day, a little girl noticed the yellow clover and picked her up to take her home. The little girl loved that she had found such a treasure. Once at home, the little girl planted the yellow clover in the garden. When the yellow clover recovered from her journey, she sprouted up over the dirt. As she looked around to see what she could see, she was overjoyed. All around her were clovers of different colors. She saw yellow clovers and orange and red as well as green clovers. Now she no longer felt alone because everyone was different. Now, what it says to do now. We are going to use our somebody is going to be in blue. What they wanted will be in yellow. But will be red. So will be green. And then would be orange. So we are going to do that right now. So blue, who's our somebody? That's right, a yellow clover. And what did she want? She wanted to be what? She wanted so badly to fly away and find a field of yellow clover so she wouldn't feel alone. But, what's our but? What was the main problem? She seemed to be stuck in place and there was no way to get loose. Right. So, what happened? So, one day a little girl noticed a yellow flower and picked her up and took her home. And once she was home, she planted the yellow clover in the garden. And then, what happened? What's our then? The end of our story. So what did she see? She looked around, she was all around her were clovers of different colors. And she no longer felt alone. If we look at this story, we just went through and found her somebody, wanted, but, so, then. And we were able to answer those 5 things because this was a fiction story. We were able to answer the somebody, wanted, but, so, then. It wants us to identify the summary that has all the parts we colored. So let's look at summary 1 right here. A yellow clover wanted to live with other yellow clovers, but she was stuck, so a little girl picked her, then planted her with other clovers of all different colors. Okay, what about summary number 2? A little girl picked a yellow clover because she thought it was special. She took it home and planted it so she could see it grow. Summary number 3. A yellow clover was sad because she was different. She wanted to be with other clovers that matched her. She was picked by a little girl and replanted. The little girl was so happy to have beautiful clovers to look at. So we have to identify which one had all the parts that we highlighted. Which one do you think it was? If you think it's summary number 1 and chose number 1, you are right. Remember, we have to use our own words and not add any details that weren't there. Summary 3 was close, but the little girl was so happy to have such beautiful clovers to look at. That was never mentioned there, right? It said that the clover was happy and overjoyed, but it never said the little girl was. So summary number 1 was our best choice. It answered our somebody, and included the wanted, it included our but, it included our so, and it included our then. When we summarize a nonfiction text, these are our ones that are informative pieces of writing, where we are going to get the gist. What is this text mainly or mostly about? What's it mostly about? So step 1, we determine the most important who or what. This would be where the main idea needs to come in. You can mention the topic, which is one word, and then your main idea. What is it mainly about? Then in step 2, we're going to identify the most important details about the who or what. It says to identify 2. I would include 2 or 3 main details. Then in step 3, you're going to put it together. And here you kind of restate your main idea again, kind of sum it back up. We could also look at this graphic organizer for our nonfiction summary. All right, so what we could do here is where it says our step 1 over here, we could say the text, name the title, is about, and include your main idea. This would be our step 1. Then where it says first you should know about detail 1, also detail 2, and finally detail 3. All of this could be your step 2. And then that last part of this graphic organizer where it says, now I think, and include your opinion, because this would be our step 3. Let's practice summarizing a nonfiction text. Read the passage below. Come up with an appropriate title for the passage. Then use the information from the passage to complete the activities on the next page. So we're going to leave the title blank for now. Millions of people take a trip to the beach every year in the United States. Spending a day at the beach can be a lot of fun. However, if you arrive unplanned, your beach trip could quickly be ruined by a painful sunburn. The most important thing you should do to prepare for a trip to the beach is to bring items that will help protect you from the sun's UV rays. Sunscreen can help protect your skin and prevent sunburns. A hat with a wide brim all the way around helps to protect your entire face, including your ears and the back of your neck, while sunglasses help protect your eyes. When packing for a trip to the beach, be sure to remember all of these items. It takes less than 20 minutes to get a sunburn, but you probably won't see any redness or feel any pain for several hours. That's why you should put sunscreen on before you even get to the beach. Then, once you are at the beach, put more on every few hours or after you are done swimming. Make sure your trip to the beach is all fun and no pain by preventing a sunburn before it happens. Taking just a few minutes to prepare properly can protect your skin and guarantee a great day. The caption says, "Don't forget to put sunscreen on your face." So thinking of a title for this, we could put, so maybe a title for this could be Sunscreen and the Beach. And this could be our title, right? We could name it right here. All right. Let's go to the next slide and practice summarizing this article. When you write a summary, you must include only information from the reading passage or the book you are summarizing. You can't include any additional information, even if it's true. So think about these statements that could be included in a summary of the passage you just read about going to the beach. Then we're going to put these under the side that either says statements that from the passage that could be included in a summary, or we're going to put them in the column statements from the passage that could not be included in the summary. Let's look at these. When preparing for a trip to the beach, make sure to bring beach towels and a change of clothes. Did we hear that in the story? No. So that's something that we should not include in our summary, even though it is true, but it was not in the article. The second one, sunburns can be very itchy and make your skin blister. Did we hear that in the article? No, but it is true. It could happen, but it was not included in the text. An umbrella provides shade, which protects you from the sun's UV rays. I don't remember hearing that either in our article, so we're not going to include it in our summary. What about sunscreen, sunglasses, and hats can protect you from the sun's UV rays? Yeah, we did read about that in our article. What about sunburns can ruin a fun trip to the beach? I do remember it saying that. And bringing items that protect you from the sun is important when taking a trip to the beach. Yes, that was in the article as well. So remember, you can only include things that you read in the article or text in your summary. So let's look at these two summaries from what we just read about the beach. Which one would be the better choice? Remember, we're talking about the gist, so that includes the main idea and 2 or 3 details that came from that text, and then it sums it up at the very end. So let's look at number 1, summary number 1. Okay, so let's look at summary number 1. If you're planning on going to the beach, make sure you prepare so that your trip won't be ruined by a sunburn. Bring sunscreen, a hat, and sunglasses with you. Put sunscreen on before you're at the beach and then put it on later. This will help protect your skin. I'm going to give this a check because I know all of those things were mentioned in our article. Now let's look at summary number 2. If you're planning on going to the beach, make sure you prepare so that your trip won't be ruined by a sunburn. Put on your sunscreen with an SPF of at least 15. Make sure you rub your entire body, including your face, ears, with sunscreen. If you don't get sunburned, drink a lot of water the next few days and put aloe vera to help with the itching. There were quite a few things that weren't in the article. I don't remember anything about SPF, and I don't remember it saying rub your entire body. It did say your face, but I don't think it said ears. And it never said anything about drinking water or putting aloe on. Those things all are true, but it didn't mention it in the article. So this is not our best choice. So the best choice for the summary would be summary number 1. The main idea is if you are planning to go on going to the beach, make sure you prepare so that your trip won't be ruined by a sunburn. And it gave us some details. The first detail from the story was bring sunscreen, a hat, and glasses with you, right? The second detail it gave us was put sunscreen on before you're at the beach. And then the third detail it said was put it on again later. So it gave us two to three main details. And then at the very end, it summed it back up with this will help protect your skin, right? So that would be our best summary for that article. Summaries. When you do a summary for a fiction article, remember you need to include the beginning part, which usually includes the characters and the setting. You also need to include the middle, which is usually the problem and our rising and falling actions, and then the resolution is at the end, and we have to make sure that we tell it in order, beginning, middle, and end. When we do a nonfiction text, we need to make sure that we include the topic, who or what it's about, that goes along with our topic. If you can, when and where it happened, and include this when giving the main idea. You usually want to give your main idea and then include that topic. And then we need details to support the main idea. I say 2 to 3. And then at the very end, you need to sum up how it ended or wrap it back up in your own words. Again, even when it's a nonfiction text, we need to make sure we give it in order, the events in order, regardless if it's which text structure, whether it's cause and effects, problem and solution, compare and contrast, description, chronological or sequential order, or classification. We always want to make sure we give our summaries in order, whether they're fiction or nonfiction.